So today we have to start on page 252. Thus, not any eternal and original law of eternal and origin. This is what we have to read. But to get the continuity, I'll tell you what he has said in the previous para. Not in his words, but in other words. Mind is the principle of division. Its power of division breaks up all forms into infinitesimals, which it aggregates to make finite forms. Cosmic mind then enters into all these finite forms thus created. This cosmic mind, armed and guided by the real idea, creates life forms, but in multitudes, because the nature of mind is to divide. These conceptual self-aspectings in the real idea are turned into material forms with life infused into them. The infinite atomic divisions then aggregate to create material forms with life inherent in them. Each living form thus created feels itself to be separate, distinct from the rest. This is, of course, an illusion created by the ego. But this will to be, which is really the conscious force, cannot be imprisoned and thus emerges and liberates itself into separate individual states. This is what he said in the previous para. Now we read the next para. Thus, not any eternal and original law of eternal and original matter, but the nature of the action of cosmic mind is the cause of atomic existence. Matter is a creation, and for its creation, the infinitesimal and extreme fragmentation of the infinite was needed as the starting point or basis. Ether may and does exist as an intangible, almost spiritual support of matter. But as a phenomenon, it does not seem, to our present knowledge at least, to be materially detectable. Subdivide the visible aggregate or the formal atom into essential atoms, break it up into the most infinitesimal dust of being, we shall still, because of the nature of the mind and life that formed them, arrive at some utmost atomic existence, unstable perhaps, but always reconstituting itself in the eternal flux of force, phenomenally and not at a mere unatomic extension incapable of contents. Unatomic extension of substance, extension which is not an aggregation, coexistence otherwise than by distribution in space, are realities of pure existence, pure substance. They are a knowledge of supermind and a principle of its dynamism, not a creative concept of the dividing mind, though mind can become aware of them behind its workings. They are the reality underlying matter, but not the phenomenon which we call matter. Mind, life, matter itself can be one with that pure existence and conscious extension in their static reality, but not operate by that oneness in their dynamic action, self-perception and self-formation. So, quite a few new ideas he is putting in. So, we'll go sentence by sentence, but before that, we get the general picture of what he's saying, then I'll go into each sentence. Okay. So, the atomic division of matter is caused by mind and not by any law in or of matter itself. Matter is subjected to the law of mind which divides. So it is not matter itself that is breaking up. It is mind that is breaking matter. Okay, so.
Matter as seen through the mind.
Matter?
It is matter as seen through the mind.
Yes. You can say that, yeah. Then, Matter is a created substance. Now that's another important point. It's not a fundamental reality. Matter is created. The fundamental reality corresponding to matter is Sat. That's right. And that is fundamental. Matter is a created substance and not an original, eternal, primary substance like ether, which has no division in it. No division at all. Matter is an element in Prakriti which is created. The creation of matter necessitated the atomic division, since the principle in the lower hemisphere is multiplicity. At the highest level, oneness; at the lower level, multiplicity. Ether, which is the spiritual counterpart of gross matter, does exist as an intangible oneness without division, but it is not materially detectable. If we continue the process of division to its final end, we will not arrive at an unatomic extension, incapable of contents, but only a dust of being, unstable perhaps. Science too seems to say the same thing when it asserts that the position and the velocity of a particle cannot be determined simultaneously, but constantly reconstituting and renewing itself in the eternal flux of seeming unconscious and mechanical force. Unatomic extension, extension without aggregation, can only be found in Sat of Satchidananda and not in the created world. Sat is a pure unatomic extension and a fundamental reality. It cannot be found in the created physical world. Matter, on the other hand, is definitely atomic extension of substance. Matter has dynamism, multiplicity. Sat, ether, existence has status, permanence, oneness. That's the difference. That's what he's saying. Quite clear, the distinction between Sat and matter. That is one, this is many. That is static, this is dynamic. That is principle of extension without division. Like a blank paper, this is extension without division, this lamp. But the moment you break it up into small, small dots, it's the difference between a continuous tone photograph and a photograph which is reproduced with dots. Exactly the same thing. Okay? When you are doing photography, it's a continuous thing. There are no dots. But if you want to reproduce it, you have to break it up into dots and then print it. That's the only way to do it.
So at the level of ether, there are no atoms.
Yeah.
At the level of ether, there are no atoms.
No atoms. That's right.
But it's still material. It is the most subtle form of matter, right?
It is a subtle form of matter, but not detectable materially, they're saying.
Yeah, that is what science needs to know.
You can't take like a Geiger counter, you can't see force, but your Geiger counter will be able to see force. It will register the vibrations. No instrument will be able to.
Which instrument?
Geiger counter.
Geiger counter.
That's they use it for measuring radiation. Suppose in that Russian reactor that caused so much, what is that? Chernobyl. Okay, so how much radiation is there? Is it safe to go there or not? So they put on all heavy protection and then go with a Geiger counter. If it goes beyond a certain level, it's not safe. If it is below a certain level, you can go.
Maybe it's a Giga counter, Giga.
It's a German word, I think. GIE.
It's a computer's word also, we say gigabyte.
Yeah.
So, the same thing maybe.
But then does ether have vibration?
No. He's saying it is static.
Or static?
Static extension, unatomic extension, and infinite, eternal, and absolutely real. But you can't detect it materially.
Only at the level of atoms there is some vibration.
Oh yes. Vibration, yeah, it starts even. I think vibrations start even at the overmind level.
Actually, yeah. Actually, what is called ether means akasha in Sanskrit. The corresponding tanmatra, that is shabda or sound. Another word for sound you can say is vibration, but it is the most subtle level of vibration. So it is incorrect theoretically to say that ether is not vibration at all, because this connection is there. You understood?
But he said it's not detectable material.
Yes.
Air is vibration.
Yes.
And there's another.
Like this, when the speed of a motion becomes so high that it tends towards infinity, then you will feel as if it is not moving, but it is infinitely moving. That's what it is. It is infinite vibration.
Whether ether exists, yes. But you can't feel the vibration.
See, if something is moving very fast, then it will appear to be moving in a straight line, smoothly.
But did Einstein believe in ether?
It is difficult to say. In the 19th century physics, they certainly believed in ether. I passed my schooling 11th standard in 1999, and I have come across the word ether in the physics books. I can say this much. So, yes, ether used to be there. In
But I
19th
think
century,
now they don't accept it.
now they have dropped it.
Now they don't
In the
accept
20th
it.
century, they
It's
have.
not materially detectable. They think it doesn't
But
exist.
when you were studying the concept of ether in science, how was it portrayed?
I don't remember exactly, but the word, what I want to say is, after my education, I am not unfamiliar with this concept that ether as the substance of all substances was part of the knowledge of physics. It
Yeah.
was there.
Right.
And certainly it was there in the 19th century. For some reason, maybe after Einstein they dropped it. I don't know that much. That we can have to.
If it is not detectable materially, then you could say in a certain sense it doesn't exist.
I feel that from the language of Sri Aurobindo, when he is writing this, at that time they have dropped ether. They are not
Yeah.
acknowledging it.
Even in Indian philosophy, there are certain systems that don't accept the 5 elements. They don't accept ether. Yeah. Only the 4 elements. One of the systems, I forget which one.
But without the element of ether in science, is science itself incomplete?
There is no time and space in ether.
But then that's what, like, all our understanding of science is right now devoid of the concept of ether.
Yeah.
But that ether, it's the very source of matter and
Yes.
Yes.
so whatever understanding that we have of science is essentially incomplete.
Yes.
Because the element of ether
Yes.
will change the existing laws.
Yes.
So
It is incomplete and it is also incorrect.
exactly.
So, because time itself, each level of consciousness has got a time and a space of its own. And as you keep going higher and higher, okay, time actually slows down. Because in the self, there is no time.
And even generally, you are only taught 3 states of matter:
Right.
solid, liquid, and gaseous.
Yeah.
That is earth, liquid will be jala, and the gaseous will be vayu.
Vayu.
But what about the other 2?
Other, yeah.
So it is, from that point of view also, the Indian system has 2 more: ether and the Agniwala.
Yes. Yes.
But you can also say that ether is sky.
No.
No.
No?
Yes, that is the analogy which is used. That is the analogy which is used.
Space.
It's an image.
Yes, exactly.
It's a space.
It's an image.
So it is space, essentially.
Yes, it is space.
So it's in outer space where there's no atmosphere, and it's in outer
It is
sky as well.
it is the thing in which everything is contained. It is the containing principle.
That's right. Containing in essence. Just like the seed contains the whole tree in essence. But you look into the seed, no flowers, no trees, no bark, no fruits, flowers, nothing. But it contains the essence. All right. So, this is basically the idea that he's giving you here. But we will probably look at each. When you go into each sentence, it becomes difficult. But you get the overall picture, it is much easier. Okay. So, that's why we read the picture now. Thus, not any eternal and original law of eternal and original matter. Okay. He is talking of an law which is eternal and original, and also of matter which is eternal and original. Okay? But the nature of the action of cosmic mind is the cause of atomic existence. It is mind that is breaking up matter and causing matter to be infinite atomic existence. Matter is a creation. That's an interesting thing. It is a creation. In fact, everything below the supermind is a creation. Only one thing is that it is uncreated, the divine. Yeah, the self.
Self-existent.
Yeah, that is uncreated. Aja is a word used in the Gita.
Aja and Swayambhu also. Self-existent is Swayambhu.
Yeah,
That which is self-existent.
that's right. So, matter is a creation, and for its creation, the infinitesimal, an extreme fragmentation of the infinite, okay, was needed as a starting point or basis. Ether may and does exist as an intangible, almost spiritual support of matter. Srivendra uses the word almost spiritual support of matter. But as a phenomenon, it does not seem, to our present knowledge at least, to be materially detectable.
And see, here he says matter may and does exist.
Ah,
That does exist by Sri Aurobindo is a validation that ether does exist. No matter what the scientists say. Does exist.
as an intangible.
And you were asking right now about ether. So in the Isha Upanishad there is this word Matarishwan. That is used for Vayu. Okay? It means literally that which is contained in the mother principle. So that mother principle is ether. So the Matar, that is the mother. So that is the mother principle which contains Vayu.
Okay. Ether may and does exist as an intangible, almost spiritual support of matter, but as a phenomenon it does not seem, to our present knowledge at least. So Srivendra very often uses these type of words because these things are difficult to define mentally. So he is never very categorical.
He says to our present knowledge.
Yes.
That means there may come a time
Yes.
will be materially detected.
Yes. Exactly like you invented X-ray machines. It didn't exist earlier. Mobiles didn't exist. So in fact he says in Life Divine elsewhere that the subtle we have not yet examined and researched enough. But when instruments are found, then we'll be able to prove these subtle realms. So here also he is giving the same idea that it's possible to discover instruments by which you will be able to prove the existence of ether. Okay, so
And it may have been that in earlier times when they used to, invoke these weapons and all simply by the power of word,
yeah,
then maybe ether was materially detectable and manipulable for them.
possible.
That is why. Because sound is ether. That is the corresponding relation.
Yes.
Sound is ether. Tanmatra. In fact, that is why he says also at one place that poetry, it is most powerful.
Yes.
Among poetry, art and the other things, poetry is most powerful because it works at the level of ether, Shabda. And creation can happen through poetry because of this very reason.
And the creation in ether starts with that one sound. Everybody experiences in the same way. Om. I told you in the Greek, in the Jewish tradition, they hear it as an But here in our, we say Om. Because it's wider meaning. Because you say A, U, Ma. And each one it corresponds to all these different levels. Okay. But that is the reason also why these tantrics, when they do these mantras, they have these sounds. Hunkara they call it. Okay.
Durga actually, when she wants to kill the asuras, it comes in the Saptashati, she just says,
That's right.
Just the sound kills so many
Yes,
creatures. Just
that's
the
right.
sound.
We know that sound can even destroy, even in the physical world. It can break window panes when you go at a supersonic speed. Window panes break. Once, about 3-4 years ago, there was a meteorite that fell in Siberia. It was in a village area. And it broke up, the meteorite broke up in 50 miles above the earth. 50 miles. But the sound was so powerful that all the window panes in the village, they all broke. And the pieces of that meteorite were all over the village. Nobody died, but they were injured because of flying glass. So we know that. In fact, nowadays that's also another thing, power of sound to destroy. When armies are marching across bridges, they don't walk in rhythm nowadays. They break up the rhythm and go. Because it must have happened once. The bridge itself broke.
It's called resonance. If it reaches that resonance level,
Then it will happen.
see, then it will break.
So, that's why he's saying that at least, he's saying so, as a phenomenon, it does not seem to be, to our present knowledge at least, to be materially detectable. Subdivide the visible, aggregate or the formal atom into essential atoms, okay? Essential atoms, okay? Break it up into the most infinitesimal dust of being. Now he's not talking of atoms, but dust. Dust means infinitely small, okay? We shall still, because of the nature of the mind and life that formed them, arrive at some utmost atomic existence, unstable perhaps, but always reconstituting itself in the eternal flux of force. He is actually saying something scientific also. Then phenomenally, and not at a mere unatomic extension, incapable of contents. Okay. It is capable of contents. Okay. It is not incapable of contents. Okay. So and also at this lower level, you arrive at some at most atomic existence, unstable perhaps, but always reconstituting itself in the eternal flux of force. Here there is force. In Sat there is no force at all. It is actually static. Okay, so here it is constantly regenerating itself, constituting and reconstituting itself. This is also in science they have seen that if you try to locate the position of a particle, okay, you can't define it in such a way that you know its velocity as well as its coordinates. You can't. Either you know the velocity or you know the coordinates. In other words, there is an uncertainty principle. They call it the uncertainty principle in, I think, quantum physics, they call it. Okay? So, yeah. Heisenberg, that's right. So that means, that's what he's saying, na? Unstable perhaps. One word is explaining what science is saying. Unstable. But it is always there. So, phenomenally reconstituting itself in the eternal flux of force, phenomenally, and not at a mere unatomic extension, okay? Unatomic extension, incapable of contents.
In other words, what it means is, as I understand, the capacity to divide is also infinite.
Yes. And also hold the seed of everything. Matter is actually producing everything again, na? So it holds everything in itself.
So perfect oneness and perfect division.
Yes, that's right. Incapable of contents. And not a mere unatomic extension, incapable of content. In other words, it can contain infinite contents. It can contain, okay. Unatomic extension is clear, a continuous thing, okay, of substance. Extension which is not an aggregation. Again, an aggregation, if there is, it will be atomic. But if the aggregation is not there, it will be unatomic. Like this screen, unatomic. Absolutely. Everywhere you see, no division at all of any sort. Okay. Unatomic extension of substance, extension which is not an aggregation, coexistence otherwise than by distribution in space, are realities of pure existence, pure substance. They are realities there. They are a knowledge of supermind and a principle of its dynamism. There you are now, dynamism. Not a creative concept of the dividing mind, but though mind can become aware of them behind its workings. They are the reality underlying matter. So, why have I done that? Okay, I've used the word pixelated. Okay, atomic existence, you can think of it as a pixelated infinite, anatomic extension, unpixelated or infinitely pixelated extension. It can be both. Okay. Infinitely pixelated again becomes a continuous thing. He's used the word dust. If you go on dividing the atoms, it doesn't remain atoms anymore, it becomes a dust. Okay. So, and ether. Ether is unatomic extension, no division. Inconscient matter is both. That's what he seems to be saying. It is both. It is unatomic extension. It is not anatomic extension, he has said, no? But it is, and it is capable of containing everything. Then, where is it gone? They are the reality underlying matter, but not the phenomenon which we call matter. Mind, life, matter itself can be one with that pure existence and conscious extension in their static reality, but not operate by that oneness in their dynamic action, self-perception and self-formation. You got the last one? Matter itself can be one with that pure extension, pure existence and conscious extension in their static reality, but not operate by that oneness in their dynamic action. Okay. In the dynamic action, there is not oneness but multiplicity. And it is there, he's saying, self-perception and self-formation. Self-perception, it perceives itself and creates, I am going to create this. And then it, real idea is that. And then it creates what it is conceived of. Self-perception. First, in fact, he uses 3 words elsewhere. Oh, sorry. He uses 3 words. He says self-conception, self-perception, and then finally self-formation. In other place. But here he has used only self-perception. It sees itself, its idea, and then it executes it. I think we have come to the last paragraph of the chapter.
Yes.
So, therefore, we arrive at this truth of matter, that there is a conceptive, there you are, conceptive self-extension of being, which works itself out in the universe as substance or object of consciousness, and which cosmic mind and life in their creative action represent through atomic division and aggregation as the thing we call matter. But this matter, like mind and life, is still being. Being means, again, he is using a different word, but substance at its subtlest is being. Or Brahman in its self-creative action. It's a form of the force of conscious being, a form given by mind and realized by life. It holds within it, as its own reality, consciousness concealed from itself, involved and absorbed in the result of its own self-formation, and therefore self-oblivious. And however brute and void of sense it seems to us, it is yet, to the secret experience of the consciousness hidden within it, delight of being, offering itself to the secret consciousness as object of sensation in order to tempt that hidden Godhead out of its secrecy. Being manifest as substance, force of being cast into form, into a figured self-representation of the secret self-consciousness, delight offering itself to its own consciousness as an object. What is this but Satchidananda? Matter is Satchidananda, represented to his own mental experience as a formal basis of objective knowledge, action and delight of existence. So, Satchidananda is, matter is nothing but Satchidananda, creating forms and enjoying them. That's what he's saying. Words are tough. So again,
This image was nice. Tempt that hidden Godhead.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. See, this is there. This is the ananda that can be enjoyed. Come out and enjoy it. Because consciousness is going to sleep there.
The hidden Godhead is Ananda.
Huh?
The hidden Godhead is Ananda.
Yes. That's right. So, I'll do one thing. We'll see the summarization of this, and then if necessary, we can have a discussion. Okay? So, our final view of matter is this. Existence, Sat, manifests itself as matter in the cosmos. Existence is a conceptive, real idea, blueprint if you want, self-extension of being, subtle substance. Being is subtle substance, which transforms itself into gross matter in the universe. It becomes and represents itself to consciousness as an object to be experienced and enjoyed. This transformation of existence into matter is processed as follows. First, mind causes the division of existence and represents it to life to convert it into gross matter. But this matter is essentially Brahman itself. But matter thus created contains within itself consciousness which has concealed itself and absorbed itself, melted into the flux of force, movement, and has therefore forgotten its own nature. And however gross and unconscious matter may look, yet it contains the delight which it urges consciousness to recognize and realize. This urging and tempting of delight to consciousness to sense, experience and enjoy is what causes the evolution of life and mind to emerge from matter. So Ananda is there coaxing and encouraging consciousness to wake up and start enjoying the forms. And it is this which causes the evolution, he's saying.
Here the enjoyer represents whom? Here the enjoyer represents whom?
Consciousness is always the enjoyer. But it is sleeping. So Ananda is there saying, wake up and start enjoying. And enjoy what? The forms of your own substance.
I think then the hidden Godhead,
Own divided substance.
Yeah.
the hidden Godhead would be consciousness and not Ananda.
I have to see what he says. Alright.
A
So,
little complicated language.
okay.
However brute and void of sense it seems to us.
However brute and void of sense it seems to us, it is yet to the secret experience of the consciousness hidden in it, delight of being. Matter is delight of being, offering itself to this secret consciousness as object of sensation in order to tempt that hidden Godhead. Yes, consciousness. That's right. The first time you asked me, I wasn't concentrating. Yeah. It is consciousness. Consciousness is hidden itself. So Ananda is coaxing it to wake up and enjoy the forms. Yeah. It's a way of speaking. It's a way of saying, Satchidananda has come down here, but because it is infinite and divine, it will not remain imprisoned. It is breaking out. And when it starts breaking out, it starts creating forms out of matter. The matter is the fundamental substance with which it is fundamental here at this level. And it is creating forms and consciousness is enjoying. If you want to see it as Purusha Prakriti, Purusha is sleeping and Prakriti is creating forms, and slowly the consciousness is rising and enjoying, and finally when it comes to the self, it is enjoying fully. You become the witness. The Purusha is enjoying what Prakriti is creating and offering itself to for enjoyment. That's why, but in the first stage there is no enjoyment. The self is absolutely calm, clear and only a witness. But in the Gita, that very clear distinction is there. This witness can become the Jata, then Bhokta, Bharta, Bhokta. So that's a gradation. There is a gradation. Therefore, we arrive at this truth of matter. When he's saying we arrive, My conclusion is, in other words, but he doesn't use the word my conclusion. In the integral view of things, we arrive at this. Okay? So, therefore, we arrive at this truth of matter, that there is a conceptive self-extension of being. Okay? So, conceptive self-extension of being. So, this you have to understand. Okay? Conceptive self-extension would be the real idea in the supermind. Because conception, I am going to create this. That's a conception. That's why I call it a blueprint. Okay? This is what the end product will be. That's self-conception. And it's an extension, self-extension of being, which works itself out in the universe as substance or object of consciousness. The substance becomes the object of consciousness. Subject and object are one at the highest level. Okay? Consciousness and substance and Ananda, everything is one. But at the supramental level, second level, third level, it separates itself. So consciousness separates itself from force and tells force to create forms. And when you create forms, out of my own substance, out of my own body. Okay? So, therefore, we arrive at this truth of matter, that there is a conceptive self-extension of being. Okay? Being again, existence. You can use the word existence or even matter. But matter is not a good word, substance is better. Because substance covers all the full range of subtlety and grossness, which works itself out in the universe as substance or object of consciousness. This substance becomes the object of consciousness. So there is a consciousness which is watching, and what is it watching? Matter at this level. Because matter is going to create forms and is going to enjoy all the forms that it's making. Somewhat like a painter or who is doing a painting, okay, and enjoying what he's doing. But the screen and the colors are all his own. From himself he is bringing out and doing. So you can think of it that way.
Perception is bringing out.
Yes, what is there inside he is bringing out. In fact, this is Srimatu's image also. He uses this. He says, just like a poet brings out poetry from itself, Satchidananda is doing exactly that. Okay? So, which cosmic mind and life in their creative action represent through atomic division. So he says, supermind creates mind, mind creates life. It's coming out like a collapsible telescope, if you want. Out of mind comes life, and mind is creating life, and life is creating matter. Normally we think that it's the other way around. It is matter that is creating life and life is creating mind. But actually in the involution, it's the other way around. In the evolution, this is true. What is already there is coming out. Okay? So that's what he's saying. In the creative action, note, mind is creative and life also is creative. Creating what? Matter. Now that creativity in matter is again coming up again in involutionary form. So, and which cosmic mind and life in their creative action represent through atomic division and aggregation as the thing we call matter. Okay? But this matter, like mind and life, is still being. That means it is substance. Or Brahman in its self-creative action. Earlier it was self-conceptive action. Now it has become self-creative action. Okay? So, in its self-creative action, it is a form of the force of conscious being. Now the form, there is no form. Here there is form. Okay? It's a form of the force of conscious being. A form given by mind and realized by life. In the mind, the form is beginning to take shape and it becomes a fact in life. All lives are forms. No life is without form in the physical world. Okay? Think of it. Even a caterpillar, a cow, everything, whatever is there is always a form to it. Okay? It's a form of the force of conscious being, a form given by mind and realized by life.
What does it mean by realized by life?
Made real. You can think of mind as a subtle reality, and then it becomes a reality. Okay? You can think of a fetus and the baby coming out also if you want. Now, so the fetus is mind, and when it comes out, it is realized as a baby is a life. Life is doing that. And again the process is repeated from life to matter, same thing. So, it holds within it as its own reality consciousness. Okay? It holds within it. What it holds? Matter, I suppose. It holds within it as its own reality consciousness. In other words, if consciousness is not there in matter, there won't be any reality to it. So because there is consciousness in matter, it is real. Okay. Yes, this he says in other place also. It is consciousness that gives reality. So, its own reality, concealed from itself, involved and absorbed in the result of its own self-formation and therefore self-oblivious. It has concealed itself into the action. Consciousness has plunged itself into force and it has disappeared into force. So you will see only in matter, only force. Consciousness is sleeping inside the force. He puts it another way also, you can say, and that comes out in his dramas, okay, the concept of at the material level, force is full, okay, Prakriti is full, fully active. Consciousness has gone to sleep. So it is, maybe some of our icons also, it may be that, because when that, I think Durga or someone is dancing, is pressing down on the, and keeping that suppressed. So consciousness is suppressed in
Nataraja, on Apasmara.
Yes. So it's the same image. Their consciousness is dominated fully and controlled by matter, force.
Apasmara means amnesia basically. You've forgotten your
Yes.
memory, you've lost consciousness.
That's right. But as you keep rising up and up, when it comes to self, it is consciousness that dominates force. Because there is no force. It is static. So it is, they are always playing with each other, consciousness and force. So, that's what he's saying. Then, it holds within it as its own reality, consciousness, but concealed from itself. Concealed from itself. Life is not being able to see the consciousness. Matter is not being able to see consciousness. He puts that in another way also. He says, consciousness does not possess the force in matter. But it possesses it at the higher level and keeps it under control. Okay? So, and however brute and void of sense it seems to us, it is yet, to the secret experience of the consciousness hidden within it, delight of being, offering itself to this secret consciousness as object of sensation. It presents matter as an object of sensation in order to tempt that hidden Godhead out of its secrecy. Come out and start enjoying. Okay, so being manifest as substance, force of being cast into form, into a figured self-representation of the secret self-consciousness, delight offering itself to its own consciousness as an object. What is this but Satchidananda? So, therefore, final conclusion, matter is Satchidananda, represented to his own mental experience. He is using the word his. So now Satchidananda has become a person. Okay? Because at that level, the personality and impersonality both. But here he is using the word his, personal. So Satchidananda, matter is Satchidananda, represented to his own mental experience as a formal basis. The word formal means with form, not the other meaning. Formal means...
Informal.
Yeah, informal and formal, not in that sense, but form. Formal basis of objective self-knowledge. At the highest level, there is no object, subject, object, one. Here it separates itself and becomes. So, as objective knowledge, action and delight of existence. So there is knowledge, there is action, and there is delight of existence.
So this consciousness in matter, is it the reason why sometimes these computers just do something on their own without your doing anything to them?
Could be.
They have you noticed that?
Actually, the whole creation of computers being after sort of 1956 could be related to this, that descent has caused some of the hidden consciousness in matter to awaken. And only after that has happened that computers have become possible.
So when you speak of life force, you have to be very clear, okay? When we speak of life, in the chapter on life, he has discussed this very much. Now we are in matter, but in life he has discussed this very much. When you say life force, okay, actually what is life force? It is not what we call living things. Life force is nothing but prana. And prana is, life is only one aspect of prana. Because that prana it can be lightning, it can be thunder, it can be sunlight, it can be the river flowing, force. Life is only one aspect of force. So when you say life force, you have to go to the original prana, you have to go. Say electricity is prana.
If you go to the roots of the word prana,
Yes.
pra plus an. An means to breathe. Pra means forward. So forward breathing, literally forward motion, like this. The pra is enough to suggest what prana means. It means forward, motion.
That's why in Ayurveda told prana besaja, prana vishwa besaja.
See, prana can take so many different forms. It can be electrical energy, it can be mechanical energy, it can be thermonuclear energy, it can be thermal energy. Okay? So there is different forms it takes. Life is only one of those forms.